So yeah, we spoke about the master data, starting with the user, supplier, how we maintain that, the connectors that we use. Okay. Extensively, we'll be using those connectors when you get into the administrator role. Okay. And then we got into the company structure. We understood what is business, what is company code. We see it as business legal entity here. Both are one and the same. We understood what is business unit. Okay, so the business units, which is a combination of the company code and the other organization unit. Okay, so the company code stands first, and then the business unit comes in, which is the combination of the verticals and horizontals. Yeah, so, and then we understood what is cost center or the cost object, where we classify the source of amount to be paid to the supplier. That is, like, that's where we calculate for one particular project, the costing for one particular project. Okay, so each project would have a cost center against that the cost will be booked. Okay, so the company details, we understood what is company details and so on. So now we are getting into something called the labor type. Okay, so the labor type is like, what are all the types that they will be using a company as an company, for example, Energy Australia, what are all the roles they are trying to use for the external workers. The roles for an employee, it doesn't matter. The role for the employee doesn't matter. Employee roles will be booked here. It will all be recorded here in the user role. Whereas this is the primary role of a contractor, the external employee. Okay. So in that, we see it depends upon the company. It depends upon how company wants to utilize their external employees. So in this case, we have got admin or clerical role, accounting and finance, scientific, industrial. So these are the primary stuff. Under this, we will be having a whole lot that I'm going to explain. Okay. So this is something which we have to maintain within Fieldglass, because this is exclusively for Fieldglass. This doesn't come from anywhere else. It's not in ERP. It's not in any other system. It is in Fieldglass all alone. Okay. So this we maintain. Why we maintain this, I'm going to explain you that. When we move further, we'll get to know. Okay, and then we have got something called location. Locations are, as I explained to you, locations are the company locations in various sites. For example, Bangalore is a site. In Bangalore, we have got something called in Vijayanagar, we have got a location. Similarly, Tamil Nadu, in Chennai is a site. And in Chennai, we have got in some place, we have got a location. Okay, the location with the code and the address will be maintained here. Okay. These are the sites. Sites are like I would say, cities in which the locations will be maintained. So we need to have the site in place to get the location in place. Okay, in first place, okay, in Vijayanagar, I have got the location. For that reason, I need to have the site first. The Bangalore site should be present here so that I can maintain the location there. Okay, so without the site, I cannot maintain the location. Both are interrelated. Sites come first and then the location. Okay. So we have something called email messaging template, email message template. So here we go. So these are the messaging template, email messaging template. These are the templates that's being used for various functionalities within Fieldglass. Okay. So for example, you know, how an email to be sent to a user. For example, his contractor is ending this month. If at all, if he has a requirement to extend his contract, if he has an option to extend his contract, Fieldglass is going to notify the user that, okay, your contractor is ending on so and so date. It starts notifying as per the requirement. We set it up the notifications frequency. Probably say, for example, if the contractor is ending on July 30th, then it's going to send a reminder from as per how many times we want to. So it's going to send the reminder, say, starting 1 month before. Yeah, stating that, okay, your contractor is ending. If you want to extend, you can go ahead and extend. Okay, these are the formats that being utilized here. We have got in different languages, a different format. Okay, so in different languages, it's gonna go. We have got the header and footer, which explains about what they are trying to say. Okay, so this is the email message template, and we have got the messaging part. So this is the template, and this is the message. For what reason? There are a whole lot of reason for that matter. Probably it is because the contractor is absent or he has not marked his timesheet for a certain period. He has got some changes in his profile or his assignment within Fieldglass, and hence his he gets the intimation. The manager gets the intimation on the contractor's changes, absence, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the reason why the messages will be maintained here. No doubt we can set this up. We can enable and disable it. Okay, send the notification. We have got in different languages. And then comes the system variables. System variables gives us the different messaging. You know, system variables is where we have to maintain the reason, the modules, the different modules that we have to maintain, and that will be used in the messaging part and the email message template. Okay, so here we have got a whole lot of things. If we go to the job posting, we can find something like this. For what reason we are trying to do this? who needs to be intimated. Who needs to be intimated? And what are all the information that needs to be given in the email? A small part. This is something which is covered at the implementation point. No doubt over the support, if the requirement lies, if there's any enhancements or something as such, we will be involved in this as well. Okay, so do we have any questions, guys, on messaging part? Any questions on messaging? It's a simple stuff. It is exclusively used to send out the notifications to the users or the contractors, managers for various reasons. We have got the various reasons for it. So the reasons will be maintained in the system variables. The same reasons will be utilized in the messaging option. We are going to select what needs to go and what not. And we'll use the email message template. In that template, whatever the settings that are made in the messaging section will go to the users or managers. Okay. Okay. So let's understand on how to configure a template. Okay, so now let's consider it is SOW. So SOW, which is related to contractors. Contractors are workers. Okay. So we need to understand this. We have got company code. We have got the company code in place, which will be associated to all the workers and business unit. Which is the combination of company code and other organizations. Okay. So company code and other organization unit in the sense company code in probably company code may be considered as the different businesses within the company, and different organization unit is the subcategorization within the different businesses. Okay. So we have got something called cost center. Which explains the amount to be paid to the supplier. Okay. This is where we need to maintain the budget. So I'm explaining this because you can understand how we need to maintain the templates, the job posting templates or SOW templates. Okay. And this budgeting budgets are not maintained in Fieldglass or Ariba. It is always maintained in ERP. As I explained yesterday, where does this master data comes from? It is coming from ERP. Okay. So normally the finance part will always be maintained in ERP, and hence we have got the budget to be maintained in ERP. So this cost allocation are like this cost allocations are cost center, plus GL account, which is GL number, which is general ledger account. It is something which is within the ERP. Under general ledger account itself, the cost center comes in. So cost allocation are maintained there. Okay. So GL numbers, we can maintain a single or multiple GL. Okay, so this is the concept that we have to understand, and I've explained to you. Try to understand it. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay. So I'll be explaining you how we set up the template within the system. Okay. So when we are trying to maintain a template within the system, within Fieldglass, that is SOW field template or the job posting template, we need to understand there are some rules and regulations that we need to follow, and accordingly we need to maintain things. Okay. So in SOW, we can allow multiple currencies. We can allow multiple currencies. But whether we can do it or not, we shouldn't. We should never config this in template. We should never config this in the template. Because allowing the multiple currencies might create problems within the template itself. However, they will be having the options to utilize multiple currencies at the other side. We can allow it. We can allow it if it is global in nature. If the requirement is global in nature. For example, global in nature in the sense dollars are global in nature. Yeah. So USD is global in nature. It is accessible across the globe. If business needs that, we can config this to allow multiple currencies. If not, if it is no, if it is if the requirement is local in nature. Okay. So while creating the template, we have got an option called supplier can edit worker start date. Supplier can edit worker start date. So when we say supplier can edit the worker start date, say for example, the company has a requirement to start on 1st of July or 1st of August, say, and for some reason the contractor is unable to join on that particular day. Supplier can themselves decide, okay, let's start it with 2 on 2nd or 3rd, because the contractor is not available on 1st. So he can do it, supplier can do it himself. So when he does himself, the buyer will not be having the internal control. He will not understand what is happening. Yeah, it is a requirement of the buyer, and buyer should have all the control over these transactions, and hence we should never config this in the template. Never config this in the template. In extreme cases, I can say yes. If buyer agrees, okay, that's all right. This is not a major issue. Then we can mark it as yes. I hope you guys are understanding who is buyer and who is supplier here, right? So that's what it is. If the buyer is all fine with this, allowing supplier to edit the start date or decide the start date, it's not a problem. We can set it as yes in the template. If not, normally it should be no. Normally it should be no. Any general requirement, which is any requirement general in nature, yes, we should set it as no. Okay, so these are the options I'm explaining you guys. I'll show you in the system how it looks. Okay, you can look into that. That's not a problem. And you can even access when once the server is up and running. Can supplier shorten worker end date? Can supplier shorten worker assignment? For example, an assignment would be created against a contractor between 1st of August to end of December, which is 31st of December. Can a supplier go ahead and reduce it to November 30th? Is what the question is. Can supplier shorten the worker assignment? So we should never config this. So these are the options while we are configuring a template. Okay. And I'm just explaining you what all we need to do. This is a general rule. And I'll show you how it looks in the system. Okay. So never config this in template. Only buyer should have the authority. So it's only the buyer who should be having the access to do this. Supplier can edit the worker start date? No. It's been created. It's been created. Done. Can supplier shorten the worker assignment? Never. Only buyer should do this. Okay. Can extend the worker end date? Can extend the worker end date? Can supplier extend the worker end date? No. Never config this. Never config this in the template. Only buyer should do this. Only buyer should do this. Okay. So worker's primary contact. Worker's primary contact can be changed on SOW or work order or the work order. Yes. The primary contact for a contractor will be the point of contact from the suppliers and okay. It might be suppliers administrator or someone else within the suppliers company who will be the point of contact with respect to a contractor or some of the contractors. So they will respond. They'll respond whenever the buying organization is facing any problem regarding the contract. So this will be normally entered by the supplier when they are submitting the assignment to the, when they are trying to submit the assignment to a work or to a job posting or to an SOW. And yeah, they're going to enter their name as well. So they will be the primary contact. Just give me a quick minute. Okay. So the point of contact will be by the suppliers, and we are not gonna config this in the template. Can supplier or worker submit? Because see, this we are not configuring in the template, because by default it is supplier who is going to enter this. Okay, can supplier or worker submit absences? Can supplier or worker submit absences? We should again not config this in the template. So it is not supplier or worker submitting the absence. It's both supplier and the worker. This is what we need to select the option as. Why? If it is a worker who will be available, he's gonna submit his answers when he's submitting his timesheet. Whereas when the worker is not available at all over the period of submitting this timesheet, so you might be completely out for some days. So at the time of submitting, supplier has to take the responsibility for worker's timesheet. So this is one of the things which is mandatory, I would say. Attachment. These are optional. Attachments are like in SOW, they're going to explain the job description, roles and responsibilities that they're looking from a contractor. They're going to attach that requirement. From suppliers, and they might attach his resume or CV. Okay, these are the attachments. These are optional as per the buyer's requirement, whereas these things forms very important to function, to have internal control for the buyer. Okay, so attachments are optional. Normally they'll be using it. Yeah, normal file type can be uploaded here. Not more than 20 MB. Okay. Characteristics. Characteristics are one of the major rules and regulations that is driving the SOW. Okay, these are the characteristics which is only available within the SOW module. Okay. Characteristics. Okay. So let's Okay, so this is one of the big part, I would say, within SOW template configuration. Okay, so templates are of two types. One is master template, and the other one is the child template. Okay, so master template is normally maintained to have all the common categories, all the common requirements that will be used across the company's requirement. Okay, across the company completely, and the child templates will inherit the data from the master template. So that's all right. Let it be there. I'll come to that again. Okay, let's discuss on the characteristics. Characteristics are like fees, events, milestones, fees, events, milestones, and management events. Okay. So these are the characteristics. Fees is the fee that needs to be paid for the service rendered. So SOW basically SOW is like a template will be created, and SOW consists of numerous contractors working under it. For example, you're a service company, you got a project for, say, Energy Australia to support SAP Fieldglass. You'll not be only one. You might be one, but all you guys together might work for one project. Okay, that is called as the characteristics. That is called as the SOW. Under the SOW is it's called as the statement of work, which is a contract. It just explains what are all the requirements are to be fulfilled by the contractors or a service company altogether. So the service company is going to incorporate all those contractors into the project. Okay, so they will be aligned to that SOW, and they'll start working. So under characteristics, we have got something called fees. Fees is here because the service company needs to be paid for the service that's been rendered. So according to the SOW, they can decide how they are paying it. If it is a flat, okay, every month I'm going to pay so much, then it is called as fee. Events are like, for example, if it is an implementation project, each phase will be considered as events. Okay, the first phase, planning phase. Are we done with the planning phase? Get the approval from the buyer, and the fees will be paid. That is based on the events. Based on the milestones, completions of the milestones. Okay, so milestones are like, they would set the milestones. Okay, these service the buyer might not be knowing what exactly the things needs to be done. Buyer will know the outline of it. Okay, buyer will know the outline. Okay, Fieldglass needs to be implemented. These are the phases for an implementation project. So each phase can be considered as the events, and the milestones. Each phase implemented can be considered as the milestone. Okay, based upon the events or milestones, the the money will be released to the service company. management events. Management events are not for the payment purpose. Management events just refers to any of the meetings that needs to be held over the period, any of the calls and meetings that needs to be scheduled across the product owners and the business owners to understand the requirement, to understand how the business is going on, so that accordingly we can try to implement the software. Okay, so that is the management events. So these are the characteristics within SOW template. Okay, so the characteristics can be controlled from template. The type, let me type it over here. Controlled from the template. The type may be fees, events, or milestone, as per the agreement between the buyer and the supplier. Okay, the milestone. Visibility can be controlled. Visibility in the sense who can see what. Visibility can be controlled from the template. Okay, so this is who can see what. Okay, there are certain things where buyer just wants to know, supplier need not know about that. That can be controlled here in the template. There are certain things that needs to be disclosed, must and should disclose to the supplier. Those are called as the buyer and supplier can view those. Okay, so that can be controlled here in the template. Okay, so we can have multiple SOWs. We can have multiple SOWs for different roles, or say for one particular role, we can create one master template, and you can utilize that for the different roles as per the company's requirement. If at all, if they want for each of their business unit, they might require different kind of templates, because the characteristics that needs to be, characteristics visibility might vary, characteristics might vary altogether. Based upon that, we might configure a single master template or multiple master templates. Okay, so these can be controlled within the template. Okay, so no other control should be done within the template. So based upon the buyer's requirement, the buyer can do whatever he wants while creating the templates for himself, the child templates for himself. Okay. So do we have any questions on this? Any questions, guys? No questions?
No, Suman.
Okay. So let's get into the worker. Worker under SOW. So now we are just talking about SOW for contingent worker. I'll come back. Okay. So we are just talking about the SOW. So what happens? How does the process go? Okay, first let's talk about the template and then get into the process. So these workers, the SOW workers, will never be coming from template. Okay, so template is just for the creation of SOW. Okay, these templates are useful because there are a whole lot of things which will be there. You know, the user cannot just keep on inputting this every time he tries to create the template. To make things easier, we create templates within Fieldglass. By this, user will be having a couple of steps maximum to complete a template. Okay. So SOW worker will not be coming from the template. So it is mandatory to be defined by the buyer on the technical requirements, technical parameters. Technical parameters and options that's been provided to the SOW. Okay, so SOW workers will never be coming from the template. It is mandatory to be defined by the buyer on the technical parameters and the options provided to the SOW. Okay. So why it is mandatory? It is mandatory because they need to give the scope. So buyer will be knowing, they might not be knowing, okay, for example, if it is an implementation project, they might not be knowing the concepts of that particular software, technicalities of that particular software, but they would be knowing what should be their end result is. They would be knowing the steps to accomplish that. Yeah. So that needs to be mentioned in the template. Okay, by that, the supplier will decide who all the workers or the contractors, who all the workers or suppliers, employees can do this. And he's going to onboard. Okay. So the suppliers, in the sense, the supplier is going to submit rather than onboard, I would say submit. Okay, supplier will submit the workers into SOW. Once selected by the buyer, they will be onboarded. Okay, this is the procedure. So SOW workers is not from the template. Template is just for the sake of providing the characteristics, the requirements, the in and out of the role. No doubt there will be an option as well for the creator, the user who is creating the template, to put across his requirements there as well. Okay, the master template will give you the generalized characteristics that needs to be maintained. On top of it, it's the user who can go ahead and update the additional requirements in the template, in the child SOW. Okay, so once it is done, that will be approved. That will go through the approval flow. So it will go to the approval flow as per it's been designed. We'll be talking about the approval flow soon, or say by tomorrow at least. Approval config. So based upon the approval configuration, the approval flow to the different users, they will review and approve it. Post the final approval, it will be distributed amongst the suppliers. Okay, the suppliers are gonna look into that. Look at the requirement and see if they can serve it. If they are willing to serve it, they are gonna accept it. Post the exception, if at all, if they have anything that needs to be adjusted within the SOW, they're gonna talk to them. To and fro can happen in SOW. Post that, the workers will be attached to the SOW. Once the buyer interviews and selects them, they will be onboarded into the company or to the SOW. There's another thing called SOW bid. SOW bid is something where they're gonna distribute to various companies, and they'll start bidding. In the sense, they're gonna request the quotation across the companies and see who quotes the best and who has the best resource to serve for. So amongst the bids that comes in, they can go ahead, they can work around with their budget, with their requirement, are they fulfilling the requirements, so on and so forth, and then select one of the supplier and create the SOW. Okay, that is another process within SOW. That is called SOW bids. From SOW bids, after the bid, the SOW will be created. So this is I'm talking about the SOW, however, the template. Okay. So there's another option called auto activate. SOW worker. Auto activate the SOW worker. So we can always give it as always set it to yes. Auto activate in the sense activating their work order once they are onboarded. So if we don't keep it as yes, the MSP team or the buyer should go and activate each of the SOW workers assignment one by one. It's a kind of final confirmation, I would say. I don't think, it's like the SOW will be created, sent over, there will be to and fro's between the buyer and the supplier, so on and so forth. Being said that we have got so much of conversation between the buyer and supplier, we don't need to have a final confirmation. We can go ahead and directly activate the SOW worker. Okay, so by setting it yes, the system is going to auto activate the worker once the worker registers into the field class. Auto register, SOW worker. So auto register in the sense, they need to register into the Fieldglass because they need to have their credentials. Why they need to have the credentials? To fill up their time and expense sheets. If in case they decide over the SOW that they are not filling the time and expense, it's not based upon their time and expense we are paying, then we can set it to yes. Okay. Worker need not fill the time and expense. Okay, let's auto register. If the worker has to fill in the time and expense, it is based upon the time and expense. If the time and expense is considered as the event, based upon that, the payments will be released. In that case, the auto register SOW worker should be set to no, because they need to fill the timesheet, and accordingly they will be paid. Okay. So required approvals on SOW workers added during the SOW response or revision response. We should set it to this. Okay, so a supplier cannot be on his discretion. He cannot just keep on adding his own workers. Yeah, it needs to be monitored. Whom he is adding? Is he the right person to be added? The buyer should verify it. Yeah, that's when he will be having the internal control. So requires approval on SOW workers added during the SOW response or the revision response. SOW when once revised needs to be responded by the supplier as well. Similarly, SOW when created needs to be responded. So while they are responding, they can add the worker as well. So if they add the worker, do they need the approval? Yes, they need the approval. Okay, so under the SOW response, the supplier can add more than the number of workers that is required. Okay, more than the number of workers that is required, that is mentioned in the SOW, and agree on the rates and categories, rate and characteristics, dates, requirements, so on, agree on them. So when they agree on them, they're going to accept the SOW. If they disagree, they can edit the SOW. They can edit the SOW and send it back to the buyer. And this is the to and fro of the deal. Okay. So before they get onto the deal, they try to understand, they want to make sure they're creating a win-win situation. Okay. So if they disagree, they can go ahead and edit. And then once they edit, again, the buyer organization has to overview that, review that, and they need to come on an agreement that, okay, they are fine with this. They can make the required edits if they want and send back to the supplier for the acceptance. So it needs to be approved at the buyer's end, and then it will be sent back to the suppliers for the acceptance. If, say, buyer is not willing to completely change, they can communicate that over SOW, and supplier can reject it. Okay. So it is all the agreement between the two parties. That's what the to and fro communication that goes on. Okay, so each of the parties can accept, each of the parties can edit, buyer can approve it, supplier can accept or reject it. Okay. So this is the complete setup that I'm talking about in the SOW template. Okay, at the buyer side, while creating the SOW, we will choose standalone SOW. Okay, so this is the common creation, I would say, at the buyer's end. At the buyer's end, for creating the SOW, standalone SOW. Standalone SOW is something which is not having any inheritance from the master template. Okay, so it's standalone. It is not having any inheritance from the master SOW template. The creator from the buyer's end, while creating, he has to create it completely. Okay, so when he does that, cost allocation will be procurement, schedules, type is equal to single. This is just for the understanding, I would say. I don't know how well you can understand these stuff. It's like, the cost allocation needs to be done. I'm just trying to say that, when he's choosing a standalone SOW, it's not getting the inheritance from the master data. master template. So when it is not getting the inheritance from the master template, he has to create each and everything. He has to fill up each and everything. While he's doing that, the cost allocation needs to be from one of the cost centers, procurement cost centers. He need to schedule might be any of the characteristics. Okay, define SOW workers, add rates, worker role, add the worker role, rates per day. Okay, all these things he needs to do it manually. I would say define SOW workers, plus add rates plus worker role rates as day, rates per day. Okay, add rates is the rates per day. So he has to do all these things. When he's creating a child template from the master, we don't need to do this because most of the things will be defined there. Okay, cost allocation will be defined because we are creating cost allocation might be defined because we are creating the master template for each of the business units or each of the cost centers probably. Okay, schedules will be there, will be set up. The standard schedule will be set up in the master template. If they are not following the standard schedule, that's when the standalone SOW would work for them, because they are not using the standard characteristics. Yeah, they are not using the standard characteristics, and hence they can go ahead and select the standalone and create everything. Okay, the schedules, they can create the schedules, they can define the worker role, rates, so on and so forth, and send it to the supplier. So suppliers, what they do, a supplier send, they will check the SOW. They'll check the SOW under the actions. They will add the SOW worker. They'll add the SOW worker and accept it. And submit. Okay. So this is the common criteria of an SOW. So we understood a bit about the process flow. We understood a bit about the process flow. We understood what are all the common things that we need to maintain within the master template config, and when we can use the standalone templates for SOW, and what the supplier will be doing. Okay. So in case he has added the rate, for example, the rates has been added, but supplier is not that fine about the rates. So he wants the rates to be bit high. What he can do, he can reject. He can reject the SOW. He has the comment section there. He can mention that, okay, I want so and so rates, or else it's not going to work for me. Then the buyer will review it. If he's okay with his budgets, he's going to say, okay, I'm going to do that, make the changes and submit back. Supplier says, okay, he's come to my rate. Thank you, accept. Onboard, add the workers. When once workers are added, here the buyer company, what they do, they're going to interview. Might be the requirement is 5, they might submit 7. Okay, out of 7, they're going to select 5, best 5, and they onboard. When once they onboard, the contractor will receive the username and the password for the Fieldglass to submit the time and expense. In case the time and expense is not required, then the registration process will be made. The registration process will be nullified there. There'll be no registration process. The worker will not register. We spoke about it. We'll set it to auto register. So by selecting the worker will be auto registered and auto activated. By that, he'll be onboarded. You don't need to submit the time and expense. The bill will be based upon the events. Some event that needs to be completed or some milestone that needs to be completed. It's not the fee. Fee is when he's submitting the time and expense. Okay, based upon the time and expense, monthly once or quarterly once, they're gonna pay. Okay, so these characteristics, there are 3 characteristics out of these 3. As per the buyer's requirement, they might go with any one of them. Services here is the section for setting up the complete SOW part. No doubt the approval flow comes from the workflow. We'll talk about it later. Okay, so now let's understand the service subsections in the service. Clause library. So clause library is something which will be maintained to use it in the template as clauses. Some of the rules and regulations that is normally being used by a company, a buyer company. Okay. So when I click on new, I can go ahead and create it. So these are the clauses, the rules and regulations that I can maintain. Some companies maintain it, some doesn't. Okay, these are the clauses that can be maintained and used in the template. These are the event libraries. Event libraries are like, for example, if the company is using events, based upon the events itself, they are willing to pay the supplier. In such cases, they use events. We can go ahead and create the events here. Put on a code, put on a name, events will be created. Those events can be used in the template. Okay, fees library. Fees library is the fees for the various, if it is a flat per month fee or per hour fee, they're going to maintain that here. Okay, or else if they are paying on the rates, it will be maintained in the rate sections. So the rate type, we can select any one of them. and put on the requirements. So this is the fee. So it based upon the company's requirement, they're gonna do that. Management events. Management events are any of the events that they wanna showcase in SOW. So for example, if it's a management events are like, it's not for the payment purpose. It is just, for example, if it is a kickoff call for an implementation, requirements gathering for the implementation, so on and so forth. These kind of stuff, if they want to disclose that, if they want to maintain and if they want to provide each and everything to the supplier, they're going to maintain that here. In many cases, they don't do it because they'll completely leave it to the suppliers to decide everything. They just give the time frame within which they can work around and get back to the buyer. Okay, so the questions library. So these are the questions, if at all, in case when if we are sending out the SOW bid, or if it is an SOW, if supplier has any questions, we can go ahead and select these questions if we create it. Okay, so these are the questions library. So all these are library because it is just maintained there if and only if we use it in the SOW template. So we are getting into the SOW template. So I see one of the SOW template, and you can see everything that we discussed on. Okay, you see the type, name, type is again, SOW type is again maintained within the system. Defined by, we see this lock sign. This lock sign indicates, at the time of configuration, it's been locked. An administrator cannot go ahead and change it. They're defined by the buyer. SOW will always be defined by the buyer. Is it a master SOW template? No, it's not a master SOW template. Okay, so used to create SOW bid. Yes, we can create SOW bid out of this. Though it's not a master SOW template, we can use it. We can inherit it. Okay, we can inherit the data from this template, but it is not called as the master because there are various stuff that needs to be defined across different SOWs. Associate all business units, currencies, clauses, they are not using clauses. Managing events, they are not doing that. Events, they are not. Fees, SOW worker, schedule, optional. It's only the schedule that they are using, which is optional. Okay. So SOW rules, disallow approval of items when maximum budget exceeds. So these are all self-explanatory for people. Okay, so once the server is up and running, you can go ahead and look into that and understand how it's been defined there in that server. Okay, so these are all the rules and regulations. That's the characteristic rules, revision rules. So these are the rules and regulations that we need to follow so that we have the internal control within the system for the buyer. Okay, there are some of the important stuff we discussed. This is the SOW type. Okay, So it's only one SOW type. Extensively, they are not using that. That's the reason why we have only one, and they're not using any of the characteristics as well. It's only one which they're using. Okay. SOW worker role needs to be maintained here. Okay. This is the SOW worker role and the schedule library. Its schedules even they are not using, and hence they are not defined. Okay. So these are the things that we need to keep in mind while we are working with the SOW module. The basic stuff that we have to understand while we are working in the SOW module. Okay.